Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts. Today is Thursday, June 13th, I think?
Yep.
It's 8:40. This is a special edition of Resistance Chicks where we're going to bring you some extra news because we can.
Because it's on my mind. It was on my mind yesterday. It was on my mind the day before.
I find this news to be a little bit more... Okay, except for the Pinterest thing. The AOC thing is funny.
Yeah, but I'm really shook up about these vaccines because New York actually...
Yeah, that is really disturbing.
So it's kind of... Yeah, Michelle thought it would be funny and laid back. It's not actually going to be
No more...
Get
ready to get serious.
Everything is the end of the world and you know it. Actually, it might be because we're going to go to war with Iran, but I don't want to talk about that right now. So compared to that, it's light. No
very lighthearted. The reason why I brought that up is because before we went live, Patriot Gallery was saying that she was watching Next News Network and that CNN ratings are down, right? They are below the Hallmark Channel. They are below HGTV. They are below some sort of Discovery Channel. They're like 50% less than Fox News.
Here's the thing. The only ratings they get are because they're in the airport.
And that's true. But my thinking behind that when she said that was, well, that's because people want to watch happier things. They're just depressing.
I didn't cover the New York Times article. Some kid was like, I was radicalized by YouTube, pretty much by channels like us, whatever. Some stupid idiot article. All right, I want to go into this right away. Pinterest is supposed to be a place where if you didn't know, your grandmama and your friends, they go and they pin like... bread recipes and how to sew a chicken costume or something like that.
Well, we have a friend that has several different boards, and it's actually really cool. Of just kind of thoughts. I like this, just different ideas. I think it's more like somebody's utopian happy place. All of these things
Simple
make
berry
me happy.
Ice cream. Scientists have confirmed this is the #1 food for hypertension, heart attack, and stroke, and cholesterol. And along the way, people started to use Pinterest to pin like
kind of thoughts. I like this, like different ideas
and other things, and other not just like what I would think like gardening things, right? How to make ladyfinger cheesecake, mango. Like seriously, that's on Pinterest, and then you go and then you go follow the links to other sites. Right. Well, it's a pretty big business. It's a pretty big website. And they're pretty anti-life and anti-Christian there. And there was a whistleblower, this adorable young man. Forgive me if you're watching, because I just think you're just...
Like he's going to see our show.
Cutie little tootie.
He does look like an adorable young man.
And I feel like he is in it to win it. He is fighting for life. He's fighting for Christians. So let me start with James O'Keefe, the tech insider. He has now he was outed. His first video, his voice was distorted so that he could keep his job. Well, he went into work and they found out who he was and he was fired.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm going to play a couple clips so you guys understand what it was that Pinterest was doing to censor. They literally had pro-life content, life action. Was it life action?
It was LifeSite News.
No, it's
live action. Live action.
Lila Rose live action. Pro-life. His voice was distorted. The first live action was put on the porn domain so that when you search it, you don't find it.
Unbelievable.
And then they...
But why do they even have a porn domain? I mean, people are pinning porn.
No, well, that's what they do. When they do try to pin those things, it gets put into an unsearchable thing. Unbelievable. And so this is the shadow banning that the whistleblower is saying, I want you to come out and say, if you pin pro-life things, you're going to hide it. Yeah. We don't want you on our site. He says, I want you to come out and say it and show people, because I'm shadow banned on Twitter. Right. I know when I break the algorithm. I know when people can't. On Twitter, there are so many tweet unavailables now. I can scroll through an entire thing, and there'll be
There's a lot of things unavailable on Facebook, too.
Does it say unavailable? All right, so let's start out. Let's see here.
What are we looking at here? It seems to be a bunch of XXX and porn websites, and then...
Okay, so these are the sites that you can't pin to. BigBooty.fun.
Teen Sexy Babe.
Live Action Pro-Life.
But above it is organiclifestylemagazine.com. Like, I mean, it's like they don't even want you to live well.
Yeah.
And then there appears to be
all porn videos,
cancer cures and support.
That's so
the
crazy.
live action website. What are we looking at here?
You're looking at pins with domains that are blocked. Any domain on the porn block list, you can't make a pin like that. And I happened to discover this because of a Slack thread talking about pro-life content.
Course. Live action is no longer blacklisted. Sometimes it takes a little sunlight for people to do the right thing. Now, one of the documents you uncovered and sent...
Since
then, that was a big bright spot. I'm trying to get better lighting here, guys.
Live action has been completely removed from Pinterest.
Oh my gosh.
Project Veritas was thousands of pages long.
It contains offensive terms, porn terms, anything that we don't want to show up on search. There are a lot of terms about Christians, Bible verses.
So we have Pinterest open right now. I'm going to type in the word Muslim, and what we see happen on the screen is it separates it into two words.
And it says like Muslim fashion,
Muslim quotes. And this is called autocomplete. I'll do it again for the word Jewish. I'll type in the search Jewish art, Jewish wedding, Jewish recipe. But then I type in the word Christian, and something interesting happens.
Christians being blocked from autocomplete.
Some of the other words that are on this severity level is shit sandwich, cocaine, one night stand, Paris attack, and quote wetback unquote.
And those are now being compared to Christian quotes.
Wow.
All right. So since he has
Lila Rose is the founder of the pro-life group Live Action, and she joins us tonight. Lila, thanks very much for coming in. Before I ask you about Senator Gillibrand, there was a report tonight that your organization was in effect censored by Pinterest, the tech company, and put in the same category as porn. Confirm that if you would.
Sure. It's been a busy day, Tucker. There's been an insider from the popular website Pinterest, which a lot of women love to use. You pin pictures of babies, wedding decor, and pro-life pins, Bible verses, whatever you want. Live Action's been totally banned, and it's because they say we were originally a porn website, which we're not, obviously. We're a pro-life organization. And now they're saying it's because we dwell in conspiracy theories and we're harmful to public health. At the same time, abortion clinics are on Pinterest, the same website, and they're running ads to promote selling abortions online. So it's absolutely insanity coming from this big tech company in San Francisco that's censoring the pro-life message.
Oh, it's from San Francisco.
Okay, so this comes from, we couldn't verify this, it sounds right to me. I don't know the answer, but this comes from you say a whistleblower. What happened to that person?
He was fired today. I've actually just been in contact with him. He was an employee at Pinterest. He bravely shared the news that Pinterest is not being fair like they claim they are. They say they allow anybody to share positive messages or even serious political messages on their platform. And yet this insider has now been fired after he broke the news this morning. And Live Action has been now totally banned from the website. So it's incredible to see the bias so explicit and so blatant from a website that claims to allow anybody to share messages, whether you're pro-life, pro-choice, whatever you are.
I don't know who this person is, but obviously this person is always welcome on this show.
He's brave.
So
he's a brave
he is brave. Respond, if you would, to Kirsten Gillibrand, who's running for president after all. Her claim that if you're uncomfortable with abortion, you're like a racist.
Yeah. Well, look, Kirsten Gillibrand has 0%. I think she's polling at 0%, but her comments, unfortunately, are held. This idea that it's not even justified to have the pro-life position. You're even a racist. I mean, that term is just thrown around today, but saying that you're even a racist to be pro-life. Half of America is pro-life. And why are we pro-life? Because we believe in human rights. I mean, she invoked human rights. Well, we believe in the right to life for every human being in the womb and outside of the womb. It's our first human right. It's in the Declaration of Independence. And her position of abortion through all 9 months for any reason is held by all the Democratic candidates for president. Every single one of them, Tucker, want abortion through all 9 months. That's their position, and it's out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, including most Democrats. They don't want abortion on demand for any reason. So she's completely out of touch, and it's astonishing for her to say this.
I think they've gone too far, even for them. Lila Rose, thank you. Far. Great to see you tonight.
All right, so we're gonna go over here because Tucker actually got the whistleblower on his show last night.
Well, an employee at the tech company Pinterest has been fired after going public with claims that the company censored the pro-life group Live Action. Former engineer Eric Cochran leaked documents to James O'Keefe's Project Veritas. These documents show that Live Action was classified as a porn website so that users would be unable to link to the group. YouTube, by the way, took down O'Keefe's video about this. Here's the punchline. They took it down on privacy grounds. Google caring about privacy. Hilarious. In a statement to this program, Pinterest disagreed. They said
Google follows you wherever you go. They know your every move. Talk about privacy.
Actually blocked Live Action for spreading conspiracy theories. The porn label, they said, was only an internal one since the company's first block list only targeted porn sites. Whatever the reason, they still fired Eric Cochran for bringing the truth to the public. Now he joins us for his first on-the-record interview.
Now tell me he's not the cutest little guy. No offense.
Cochran,
he looks like he's about like 19
Why
years
did
old.
you do this?
I did this because I saw wrongdoing,
so they can't see him.
And the normalization of censorship within big tech companies right now is downright un-American. And I saw this as the fight for abortion. I saw a big tech company saying quietly, saying behind closed doors that they believe that Live Action shouldn't have a platform to speak. And the big thing is, I want them to have to say this explicitly. They need to say this publicly instead of behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Right. Well, there is a kind of passive-aggressive, weaselly quality to all of these tech companies' responses. Every single time, oh, it was a mistake, or it was, classified in the wrong category. You worked at one of these companies. Confirm what we suspect. They're lying.
Yes, and this is big because this is one of the first stories that shows the definitive proof. A lot of times people might chalk things up to, oh, it's just a fluke, oh, I can't post a Live Action, but this is the definitive proof, and now they're in full cover-up mode as they're trying to protect their pro-abortion stances.
What did they say to you when they fired you?
So security came up and found me, and I asked them, hey, what's wrong? Did I do something wrong? They had no answers, and they escorted me out of the building.
Oh my gosh, they were too chicken to have your boss come and talk to you? They just escorted you out with security?
Other potential whistleblowers. There, I presume a lot of people at these companies who aren't for censorship. How should they respond?
This is the watershed moment, Tucker. This is about abortion. You're seeing now with YouTube doing Pinterest bidding by removing the Project Veritas video, you're seeing that they're going to do whatever it takes. They are 100% in to protect the abortion lobby, and pro-lifers who exist within big tech companies, there's a lot of us, they need to come to Project Veritas and they need to expose what's going on. They need to make these tech companies, like I have, explicitly say that we are on the side of the abortion lobby, because then at least we know where we stand. We at least know what's going to happen. And what we're seeing right now with Live Action is that this isn't just Pinterest, because now that Pinterest does this, now Facebook, there's a hive mind, now Facebook, now Google, they're all going to, with this hive mind, cite this as an example of Live Action spreading dangerous misinformation, and they're going to cite that as an example to censor all pro-life content. So this is the watershed moment. This is the spark for the pro-life movement. Pro-lifers within these tech companies come to Project Veritas, expose what's really going on in big tech.
Yes. Tell the truth.
Yes,
You're a brave man, Eric. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Brave
Wasn't
man.
that the best interview ever?
I mean,
he hit so many good points, and he was appealing to anybody that's pro-life that does work for these companies, which I'm going to guess they're few and far between. Because they actually try to weed out those kinds of people from working for them. Yeah, so this is the
video unavailable. The YouTube can still be seen on Project Veritas's website, so go to projectveritas.com.
Right.
It reveals that Pinterest added Bible verses to a sensitive terms list and censored a major pro-life website as pornography. This follows a similar act of censorship by Twitter, which restricted a tweet from Project Veritas revealing these internal communications in Project Veritas. That tweet has now Project Veritas's account has now been restored. So, Twitter has decided that investigative journalism is in violation of their terms of service. Project Veritas has been temporarily suspended from posting or tweeting internal communications from Pinterest, which show them calling Ben Shapiro a white supremacist. However, Ben Shapiro is Jewish and by definition cannot be a white supremacist, because white supremacists, by definition, are anti-Jewish.
Right.
That's the definition.
Yeah.
Okay, so James O'Keefe says, the established media and technology are so afraid of investigative journalism, they need to censor it. YouTube calls reporting on someone by showing their face and name and how they added a pro-life group to a porn blacklist a privacy complaint. Would they do this to the New York Times, who shows the name and the face? I mean, we heard about Carter Page. We heard about Paul Manafort. We heard about all these people. Yeah. We heard of leaks and leaks and leaks and leaks and leaks within the Trump administration. But a right-wing person goes in and leaks a person from, oh my gosh, take it down.
Right.
So, okay, I'm starting to have a hot flash down here with all the lights. Forgive me. Oh, whew. I'm like,
well, and I think also just talking about this, it gets you a little bit upset and riled up because it's so wrong. I don't even want to use the word unfair because it's beyond unfair. It's evil at its very core. They are pushing an agenda and they are trying to sway not just the nation but the world by shifting a viewpoint, by omitting, by book burning.
Right.
And it is pure evil because we're talking about defending the rights of innocent children who are being murdered. And to say that you don't even have a place at the platform to equally talk about it. You know, like you would think that it would be easier to censor abortion providers because they're actually providing murder.
Death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to play this one little clip here of
worked at Pinterest.
Why did you decide to do this?
Because if I didn't, who would? There would be a huge bystander effect. There is a huge bystander effect inside Silicon Valley. This is something that no matter what happens, no matter what I lose, it'll mean something after I'm gone. I tell a lot of people, like, what are you saving your ammo for? The hardest part is to take the first step. Once you've taken the first step, it's a ball in motion. You can do anything. Willpower is
I hope that
indomitable.
This isn't the last
and
we
you
hear
take
of this
that first
from
step,
this young man.
Then people have your back. And come to Project Veritas for sure.
Wow.
The tech companies can't fight us all.
So he has a GoFundMe because he's without a job right now. He really put his money where his mouth is. There's more on these. If you guys follow James O'Keefe on Twitter, you can look at all the videos, have all the links to all the videos. But what Michelle is right. This is about silencing the voices of the people who don't have a voice. And what we are seeing is, Mom shared a video, Stephen Molyneux. It's only like 12 or 15 minutes long. But in it, he talks about the fact that we are treated right now like farm animals.
Yeah.
And farm animals, in order to get fat or big and grow well, are given sometimes extra pasture.
Yeah.
Okay? A farm animal may be given food. And so you think that your benevolent leaders are giving you freedoms. Or giving you some space. Well, I can drive a car. That's a freedom. Yeah, but there are speed limits, blah, blah, blah. Although I really feel, maybe speed limits are necessary for everything, but not a horse. And I feel like cars are not of God because you don't need speed limits or stop signs for horses. But I digress. The point is that we are farmed. And a point that he made was, you can't yell at or threaten a hen to make a hen lay more eggs.
Yeah.
But you can yell at and threaten a human who has eggs to give you part of their eggs.
That's really good.
Okay? You can't slap the soil with a whip and say, grow more food. But you can slap the back of a human and make them work harder. And so what what it's called human trading and using human resources.
I hate that term.
Through fear.
Yeah.
And your bosses and your government will give you just enough freedom,
right?
Or pasture. They are not benevolent farm caretakers, right?
Right.
Just enough to make you productive, okay?
Sure.
If you cease to be productive for them and you find that your freedoms, you want to grow and maybe start your own farm, then that's when the claws come out.
Yeah, it's like trying to leave a gang.
I've known this from the very beginning.
They would rather kill you.
Of 2016, that YouTube was controlled opposition to the deep state. They knew that dissenters needed a place to vent. They knew that there would be some people who unplugged from the matrix and they would need to meet together to talk about things.
Have you ever seen the glass lids on pots? That they have a really good seal, but they have that tiny little hole? Because if they don't put the hole on that lid, it will blow.
Pop off, right?
And so they have to. So what you're saying is YouTube was that tiny little hole,
right?
So that we could vent, so that it didn't explode.
Right.
Well, they're plugging that hole,
exactly,
and it's about to blow.
And so what they've done is they've seen that they allowed too much freedom. And what they did in starting in the late 1800s was they realized in order to farm people, we must have them from the time they're children, which is why I say it doesn't matter whether you have a good school. It doesn't matter whether you think that you have good teachers.
Right.
The public school system, its whole purpose is to design farm animals so that they are productive on the government farm, on the deep state farm.
Right.
Okay? You're not designed to be... They allow you freedom of choice to... they found that making everybody take a specific occupation led to lower productivity. Okay?
Right.
So what we have is capitalist communism, to where you're allowed within... And you go to school and they give you a list.
I know.
And they say, these are the jobs that you can pick.
Right.
And they realize that they will get greater productivity out of people when you think that you are picking your future.
Yeah.
When they have literally destroyed your future. It's like you're on a spaceship and you have a finite amount of resources, whereas if you were on the earth, you have infinite resources to be whatever you want to be.
Right.
And so they give you in school this finite list, and you have to stay within the finite list. The same thing, they also know that if people feel like they're fighting for a struggle, and they make it out to be like somebody's stealing something for you, that is the greatest of all deceptions.
From you?
Stealing something from you. That's the greatest of all deceptions. And what they did starting in the 1940s, they realized that they sent all the men over to war and they needed women to work. Then they found that women working could be paid less. Okay, so when the men came back, the women kept the jobs and they were paid less because women going in automatically were like, well, I'm not a man. I will take a lower wage. Right? And then FDR was like, hey, I want another person. If we can double the income tax rolls, then we can do more. We can do more foreign wars and things like that. And so they have this struggle for women saying, oh my goodness, people are trying to keep you in the home. It's a fight for you to be equal as men. And they have this brainwashing in the feminist movement so that they think that they're fighting for the very thing that the deep state and the government want them to do. They want them in these positions. They want the double incomes, and women will never be paid equal to men because biologically women are the one who get pregnant, and women by being pregnant will be out of the workforce for some time, whether it's 6 weeks or just a couple of months or whatever, or 5 years, whatever. Women will be out of the workforce. So in doing so, then they drop their pay grade.
Exactly.
And biologically, women are more predisposed to want to stay at home to raise their children. So then you have within females this struggle between, I can be like a man, but maybe I want to raise my kids, but they're telling me I can't raise my kids. So it's like this whole psychological warfare and they implant that into little girls from the time they're 4 and 5 years old in public school. That's why they need to get you in public school. And why am I saying all this? Because what we're seeing right here is that YouTube and Twitter and Facebook are blowing up bridges. Okay? They're crossing the bridges and they're blowing them up, not realizing that they're going to need them as well.
Yeah.
Okay? They're sinking the very ship that they themselves are on, because whether they know it or not, at the end of the day, these companies were designed to make money.
Exactly.
And the reason they had the conspiracy theory, Anunnaki, JFK conspiracy theory algorithms was more clicks equal more ads equal more money.
Well, you know, I go back to this every once in a while. I remember a dog walk that we were taking, and I said to you, we were talking about, I think, politicians, like maybe even Paul Ryan or something. And I said, listen, money isn't actually that hard to get, okay? There are 3 things that drive a man to almost insanity: fame, money, and power, okay? You can get money fairly easily. It's actually at the lowest, because you can have a lot of money and not be famous. I think number 2, I would put fame. You can kind of become famous a little bit easier than other things, okay? But making money is the easiest. Then fame. Power is the hardest. And so
power means that you have the ability to control outcomes and to control other people, lots of other people.
So these tech companies, they got fame, they got money, and now that they have it, it's become like a drug, an addict that has to seek a bigger high. Now they want the power, and what happens is, in their thirst, their blind thirst for this power, they are shooting themselves in the foot, and they're not looking at the fame anymore. They don't care what people think. They're not looking at the money anymore. They don't care about the money.
The money is literally going out.
They're just so power, power. I must have the power. And they don't care that they are losing all their footing.
And the reason Facebook made a lot of money by selling your information, your privacy. Okay.
Exactly.
So there are people like Josh Hawley, Josh Hawley is a senator from Missouri, a new senator. And he's very well spoken for as young he is. You wouldn't know. It's so funny to hear him speak. He speaks really, intense.
Yeah.
Very particular.
We've showcased him on the show a couple times.
A little eyebrow thing like this. Just loosen up, Josh.
Right.
But anyways, he is going after big tech. There are some lawmakers who are going after big tech, and I think that what this battle is, and it is a war, and we're still on YouTube, okay?
For now.
Because we have been downgraded severely, and I believe
they have subscribers from us every day, and now they're pulling so many that we're dropping in number. We were maintaining, but now we're literally dropping.
And you know what? That's okay.
I don't mind.
God
Let
is
us
in
stay
control.
buried and hidden for a while.
My point is that even channels like us, even you guys, the comments that you make, the videos that you share, the videos that you make, when they come at you, you've got to stand your ground. You've got to hit back, because it's like this. When they come at you, they're dropping their shield. Because when YouTube was just free speech, they had surrounded by shields. Totally surrounded by shields.
Right.
Okay? They weren't going to lose advertisers. Really, the fear of losing advertisers was just a kind of a joke, a cover up. And you had these big lefties going after advertisers and things like that. But my point is that every time a Pinterest does this, they let down their shields, and it's time for us to shoot the darts at them.
Yeah.
Okay. And what I mean is truth darts.
They've exposed themselves.
And you say, this is wrong. Free speech is what we need. This is wrong. Free speech is what we need. Because every time you sign up to one of these organizations, you make a user agreement, and they have to hold up their end of the bargain.
Yeah.
Because they are, whether you know it or not, they're using you. They say, these are our terms of service. And you say, well, I didn't pay. Yes, you did pay. Because when you go on these sites, there's ads, and you have to watch them, whether it's for a second or you are making them money on these sites.
Right.
Okay? And so you have entered into an agreement with them.
In essence.
And so they have to hold up their end of the bargain. Now, what you don't understand is that these big groups operate with impunity from the government. Okay? Now, if their ability to operate with impunity is gone, no one will be left on their platform. No lefty, no righty, no nobody. Okay? You won't even have people catching snakes or canning cucumbers because it will violate some sort of publishing thing. Somebody might, let's say somebody shares something that might be a copyright or something like that. You know what I mean?
My recipe for those pickled cucumbers.
All right. So, speaking of crazy politicians, I'm going to move on from this because I do want to.
And there were a lot of great comments. So if you guys want to watch this back, no, I'm just going to let people watch it back and reread the comments in the live chat. But Donna Terry's husband fell and broke his wrists and went to the hospital, and that's really awful. So we're praying for him. That's terrible. Absolutely terrible.
First of all, this is hilarious to me because Bernie Sanders says that there's a lot of people. Now I want to hear you in this chat.
Okay.
Tell me if you agree or disagree with this statement of Bernie Sanders.
Which in the United States today is worse than at any time since the 1920s, with 3 families owning more wealth than the bottom half of America. That level of income and wealth inequality is much less severe than it is right here in the United States.
But the taxes in many of those countries are much higher than they are in the individual personal taxes much higher than they are in the United States.
But I suspect that a lot of people in this country would be delighted to pay more in taxes if they had comprehensive health care as a human right.
So, raise your hand if you agree with Bernie Sanders that you would be delighted to pay more taxes.
Crickets.
He suspects, no, he doesn't suspect anybody would want to pay more taxes. That's why he's a communist, and it's by coercion only. By any means necessary.
I think what he means
is not a human right. I'm sorry to say.
Here's the thing. They're talking about taxing.
It's not healthcare.
They're talking about taxing the richer people, right? When he says that there's people that would be delighted to pay more taxes if they had healthcare, he's only talking about the dirt poor people who would be delighted to pay more taxes so long as they actually got more money than what they were paying in taxes. Those are the people that would be delighted to pay. I will give you $50 if you give me $150. I'd be delighted to do that. And I would be delighted to do that. Give me $150, I'll give you $50. I mean, seriously, that's what he's saying. Mm-hmm. It's absurd.
And it doesn't work that way. This trickle-down economics doesn't work this way. Neither trickle-up economics doesn't work.
Modern monetary theory, baby. We can just keep printing all the money that we want, and everybody gets to live like a king.
Well, and that's what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez believes, that everyone should be millionaires. There should be no one should be making less than $1 million, including
everybody
her.
Should have fur coats.
And if everybody were making $1 million, then no one would need to be a criminal because they'd have enough $1 million.
Right.
But if everybody had $1 million, then prices would go up.
Especially, do you know who would not be a criminal if we were paying them more money? Politicians. That's what she said. She said that if we just pay the politicians more money, then they won't do criminal things anymore.
Right.
This is why there's so much pressure to turn to lobbying firms and to cash in on member service after people leave because precisely.
I'll make her small.
Good, make her small.
Of this issue. So it may be politically convenient and it may make you look good in the short term for saying, oh, we're not.
And so what she's saying is that Congress is going to vote on a pay raise of $4,500 to $5,000 a year. And she's saying, of course we need one.
Voting for pay increases, but we should be fighting for pay increases for every American worker. We should be fighting for a $15 minimum wage pegged to inflation so that everybody in the United States with a salary, with a wage, gets a cost of living increase. Members of Congress, retail workers, everybody should get cost of living increases to accommodate for the changes in our economy. And then when we don't do that, it only increases the pressure on members to exploit loopholes, like insider trading loopholes, to make it on the back end. So,
do you think there's a tendency? Do you think there's a tendency of members to obviously take it out on this institution because it's an optics issue? They don't want to seem like this.
And that's my issue, is that it's superficial. You know, you can vote against pay increases all you want. It's, in my opinion, voting against a it's not even like a raise. It's a cost of living adjustment. So you can vote against a cost of living adjustment all you want, and it'll look good on its surface, but it will, every cost of living adjustment that gets bypassed is voting to increase the pressure to exploit loopholes and legal loopholes to kind of lean on other ways to enrich oneself through service. And so my whole side of it is like, it may not be optics, it may not be great optics, it may not like
optically
look the best and in terms of
glad that we got that
use it as a political issue, but in substance you might as well be transparent about a cost of living increase, fight for a cost of living increase for all American workers, peg the minimum wage to a cost of living increase, and then on top of it, close all of the loopholes that a lot of people use when it comes to, you know, sitting on a committee and knowing what legislation may be.
Did you all hear
down
what
the
she is saying?
And changing your stock holdings or letting, you know, these are real issues, and I don't think that voting against a cost of living increase is going to negate the actual issues at hand. In fact, it only increases the pressure.
So here she talks about closing these loopholes after she gets her cost of living increase.
Now, I really want to break this down for you for what she just
break it down.
This woman makes $174,000 a year. 174 for 1% for the whole year.
But
okay, now
everybody needs a cost of living increase.
The median household income is $59,000. Now I guarantee you, somebody making $59,000, $4,500 is going to mean a lot. It can mean a brand new car for some people, can't Michelle? But for her,
okay, you mean a brand new used car?
Brand new used car for some people. For somebody making $59,000, it might be a brand new car. Anyways, she's saying that $4,500 to $5,000, it's nothing. It's just going to help me buy my toilet paper and my fast food Chinese, okay? It's a cost of living increase. She's saying, though, that it's nothing on the one hand. Mm-hmm. It's nothing. It's just toilet paper and chopsticks.
Right.
On the other hand, she's saying that $4,500 is going to be such an incentive. It's going to... all these politicians who work for lobbyists and make millions of dollars,
making it on the back end.
Making it on the back end, are gonna be like, AOC, you right. I'm not gonna do this no more because we need to just vote for that extra $4,500. Forget my $1 million. Forget my $100,000. Forget all this, you know, lots and lots and lots of cash that I'm making on the side. That $4,500, that's all I need, sweetheart. That's all I needed. That's all I needed.
The only reason that I'm doing corrupt things and using all these loopholes and making things on the back end is because I don't have that extra $4,500.
And the way she says it is that, you know, they're making it on the back end because they can't make ends meet on $174,000. Well, I'm going to tell you something. If you can't make ends meet, even with having to travel to Washington, D.C. and back to your home state on $174,000, then you shouldn't be running the government because you can't run a daggum budget. Okay, I tell you what I can do with $174 a year. Okay, we can get 4 families here up and moving, right?
4, 5, 6, probably 6 families.
Well, up and moving well.
Seriously, the insanity of what she just spewed out. No wonder she needs $4,500 worth of toilet paper because it comes out of both ends. It doesn't make any sense. The only thing that she said that made sense was to close the loopholes.
Yeah.
That was it.
Why don't you close the loopholes and maybe give yourself a pay decrease a little bit? Because you're the only people in the entire world that can vote to give yourself a $4,500 a year increase for the lot of you.
Mike Skidmore says, end the Federal Reserve, end inflation.
You know what? And that is something
every time she says it's got to be tied to the economics to get that $15 minimum wage that's pinned to the... Do you understand that inflation is theft? Taxation is theft, but inflation is the silent tax that is also theft.
Inflation makes it so that the bankers get to spend all the dollars at one level, and then the rest of you, your dollar is devalued.
Right.
Now, whether you know it or not, inflation is not necessary, and it's not a guarantee, and you don't have to have it. The reason we have to have inflation is because we keep printing more money, and we keep watering down the lemonade with more water.
And we live a life of credit.
Exactly. All right. So, there you have that. Now, interesting. We're going to probably rub some people the wrong way on this, but I want to bring a little bit of education your way.
We're going to educate you.
How many of you heard this actress? Her name is Jessica Biel Timberlake. She's married to Justin Timberlake, some boy band dude. She was seen.
I did not know she was married to him.
Well,
so much I know.
Now you know.
Now I know. And
she was seen pictured with Robert Kennedy Jr., who is he falsely claimed anti-vaxxer. If you haven't seen Vaxxed, I want you to watch it because I want you to see the other side. This is again, and what I found is that talking in any way negative against vaccines is one of the number one things that will get you taken down off of YouTube or Facebook. So I realized that I tread in waters, but I feel like it's important for me to tread those waters carefully and recognize that when we started our show, we just said whatever we want. It felt really good, right? But now I realize that we're in a battle and they are censoring you to get you taken down, and we're not allowed to say certain things. You're not allowed to be totally against all vaccinations. So I'm not totally against all vaccinations, right?
But we are for vaccine safety.
But I am all for vaccine safety and for testing vaccines.
For liability for the drug companies that produce them so that the American people do not have to foot the when people sue for damages. We pay that.
The crazy censorship.
They do not.
Because people should not be censored. And this is where I will not ever censor. If someone has a vaccine injury, if their child got a vaccination and then stopped breathing or had seizures or was on the autism spectrum afterwards, I'm going to bring those true life stories to you. It's not fake news. Right. Okay? So these are true life stories. Now, Jessica Biel joined Robert Kennedy Jr. in lobbying against this California vaccination bill. California already has one of the most strict vaccination laws. There's a new bill that is called SB 276, a bill that would limit medical exemptions. New York today, Governor Cuomo signed into law the against religious exemptions for vaccines. Now, remember, these are for here she is with Robert Kennedy Jr. These are for people who are attending schools and sometimes summer camps and things like that. Now, in SB 276, it would limit medical exemptions from vaccinations without approval from a state public health officer. This is where the state comes in, and I believe that the pro-choice movement should be right here advocating that you should be able to make decisions between you and your doctor, that a state public health official does not know your family's history, does not know your child's history, does not know your history, and is not going to be able to make a good decision for you and your family. However, there are medical exemptions in California, and there are lots of doctors who have exploited this and just signed them for people. However, if you're going to crack down on that, you should crack down on those doctors, specific doctors, rather than banning all OxyContin. What have they done? They go after certain doctors. They don't just say, well, if you need OxyContin, you have to go to a state public health officer. Right. But they want to stick those needles in those babies. You know why? Because it's cha-ching, the money. The money.
Well, and though it also helps them to control.
Absolutely.
It changes. You wonder why we have so many diseases and why, not diseases, but childhood illnesses.
Yeah.
And they're affecting teenagers and so on and so forth. You can't keep pushing chemicals into the human body, into society, and expect it to have no ramifications whatsoever.
So she said, she clarified her views, Jessica Biel, that she's not anti-vaccination. However, she feels that this law is particularly cruel because she has friends who have been vaccine injured who would be forced to leave the state. Okay? Because if they've been vaccine injured and they want to
not get vaccines again.
Let's say their one child's been vaccine injured. Well, they may not want to give the rest of their children vaccines.
Right.
And you should be able to choose
that. I actually am very excited about this. And please forgive me for those of you that want to stay and live in California. Mm-hmm. People will leave California. They will leave California and they will go someplace else. And you know what? let's drain California of all of the good people and leave the bad ones.
She says, this week I went to Sacramento to talk to legislators in California about a proposed bill. I am not against vaccinations. I support children getting vaccinations, and I also support families having the right to make educated medical decisions for their children alongside their physicians. My concern with SB 277 is solely regarding medical exemptions. My dearest friends have a child with a medical condition that warrants an exemption from vaccinations. And should this bill pass, it would greatly affect their family's ability to care for their child in this state. That's why I spoke to legislators and argued against this bill, not because I don't believe in vaccinations, but she believes in the right to, make those decisions yourself. So I wanted to point that out. John Kennedy Jr. said the biggest problem with the bill, which is something I think Jessica is concerned with, is that a doctor who has made a determination, if he has found children in this state whose doctors have determined that they're too fragile to receive vaccinations, this bill would overrule the doctors and force them to be vaccinated anyways. He added, I would say that she was for safe vaccinations and for medical freedom, my body, my choice. Biel later posted she's not against vaccinations. I encourage everyone to read more on this issue and to learn about the intricacies of SB 277. Thank you, everyone. She's meant 276. The co-sponsor of the bill says children who need medical exemptions will not have a problem getting them. Ha 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 ha. People who are on immunosuppressant drugs will not have a problem getting a medical exemption. See, you have to be on immunosuppressant drugs. Okay, those are the people who they deem truly need them.
Wow.
All right. So I wanted to kind of go over a little bit here. A little bit. We talked about this before, but Japan got rid of the MMR vaccine. Okay, that is the one that seems to cause the most trouble here in the United States. I have a relative of mine who took her sons to be vaccinated. And right after the vaccination, she took him home, his heart stopped beating. She had to administer chest compressions and CPR. And they had to go to the local hospital for kids and continue with, and he had a hard time developing in life and things like that. I have another friend of mine whose children have autism because of vaccines. They were fine. They were not fine after vaccines. And when she tells her story, everyone tells her to shut up because they're afraid that she'll spread fear. She wishes she had done her vaccines differently. I have another person that I know whose child has juvenile arthritis. I can't prove it's from vaccinations, but kids haven't been getting juvenile arthritis until vaccinations. The list goes on and on and on, where I have seen people with children who get a vaccine, even on a slow vaccine schedule, and the problem is that we have to be able to say that while vaccines do keep people from getting sick, they also make people sick. And so a parent needs to have all the information available to them and say, am I willing to take this step forward? Now,
but I want to talk for 1 second about how it's okay to say, listen, some people get peanut allergies.
Exactly.
Some people have allergies to bee stings, allergies that can kill them. Mm-hmm. Okay. They may be rare, right? But they do happen, and it's totally fine to talk about those.
Right.
It's actually okay for you to talk about the fact that if you give your child cough syrup, there may be a reaction that happens to that cough syrup. But for some reason, and we know what it is, but for some reason, if you go to talk about the fact that there are some children that have adverse reactions to vaccinations, and that number is increasing by the day, you are now some sort of evil monster and should go to jail.
I want to give you facts. The United States has the highest number of mandated vaccines in the world. The highest number. Okay, 36 double the Western world average of 18. The highest autism rate in the world, 1 in 150 children. 10 times or more the rate of some other Western countries, but only places 34th in the world for children under 5 mortality rate. Our babies are dying in what's supposed to be the richest, wealthiest, most progressive, medically advanced country in the world. We have a mortality rate that places us on the bottom of all in Western civilization, right? Pretty much, okay? There is an intense debate over the correlation between rising autism prevalence in the United States and the vaccine schedule. The vaccine schedule for children age 5 and under has nearly tripled in 25 years. Okay, this is what if I had to push anything, my mom got 3 or 4 vaccines in the 60s. I got 8 or 9 vaccines, and Michelle in the early 80s. And then after that, in the late 90s, I found that even my millennial friends who had these other vaccines, a lot of them they're
not thriving.
Failure to thrive at an astronomical level. And I believe some of it's food related, but some of it could be that your immune system would be compromised, because when you put that thing in your body, you guys, there's other things in there. Mercury, aluminum can get stuck in your brain. We know that mom had a TIA, which is a little blood clot in the brain, right? Well, what happens is you give babies aluminum, right, and it can get stuck in their brain, so much so that they've taken aluminum out of many vaccines.
Right.
Because they admit that it did cause mental problems. You think about like the X-Men, you got the iron or the metal going through your blood.
We all know that aluminum causes Alzheimer's.
Exactly.
We all know that women that are pregnant should not eat fish because of the high content of mercury. And I think another thing, and I've talked about this several times on the show, I'm going to say it very quickly here again. If you choose to vaccinate your children, and you do suffer a reaction, your child suffers a reaction, I want you to fight tooth and nail and ask a million questions and ask to talk to every single doctor that you can before you let them pump your kid full of antibiotics.
Right.
Antibiotics are one of the most prevalent and well-known culprits for causing autism in children. Their gut bacteria cannot handle it, and it literally will cause problems for the rest of their lives if you pump a fragile child's stomach full of antibiotics and kill all their good bacteria. It will wreck them for life.
Right. And be careful with what you say, because we don't want to be taken off. I wouldn't say that antibiotics cause autism.
I said fight to the nail and talk to several 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 or 13 other doctors before you let them pump your child full of antibiotics. I'm going to clarify
Michelle's statement for anybody who watches back. I have not seen a correlation between antibiotics and autism, but you can
read Dr. Axe and he will tell you all about it.
We can talk about antibiotics and good bacteria, which causes a myriad of problems.
Dr. Axe will tell you all about the link between autism and gut bacteria and antibiotics in children.
Okay, well, guess what? I'm not going to be thrown off YouTube just because I want to make a statement.
Okay.
Jeez. I'm telling you, we have to be careful with what we say on YouTube.
I told them to consult their doctors.
No, you just said for sure by fact. You can say things like...
I said Dr. Axe said it.
No, you didn't say that in the begin with. Now you're clarifying your statement.
They get what I'm saying.
Well, I am clarifying Michelle's statement for YouTube. Jeez Louise. I got to keep her in line, folks. If we're not here, it's because of her. Anyways, you gotta.
If I save a life, it'll be worth it.
Well, but if you're offline, then you can save more lives.
One is enough. Think about it this way.
No, I want to save as many as possible. I want to stay as long as I can. In 1983, the year Michelle was born, the Centers of Disease Control recommended 10 vaccines for this age group, for children, infants, I believe, till 12 months. Today, the recommendation is 36 vaccines. Calls by advocacy organizations for a safer and leaner vaccine schedule have been dismissed, with health authorities implying that mortality rates from childhood diseases would materially increase. So, the United States mandates most vaccines in the Western world, 36, double the average of the 30-country study, which is 18. All countries with lower vaccine mandates have better under 5 mortality rates. Okay? That is a fact. So I want to show you guys this. In the USA, the 1940s, you were given 5 vaccines. In the 1950s, you were given 4 doses of the polio virus. In the 40s, you were getting the DTaP. In the 70s, you were given 2 doses of the MMR, and these keep adding up. So this is how they all added up to 36.
Now, Maia does make a really good point. She says, then you can expect a visit from CPS, because that's what happened when my parents refused to use antibiotics for my little sister.
Yes. So you have to be very careful with what you do, because you don't want your kids taken away, you know, getting sick and things like that.
And if you're not going to vaccinate your children, Lee and I were just talking about this yesterday, don't tell people. Don't tell people that don't tell your closest friends. Just do it and don't tell people. You can advocate for it, but if anybody presses you or asks you whether you have vaccinated your child or not, you just say it's none your business.
Yeah, at this point you have
They will come and take your children away.
Right. Exactly. So what about Japan? Japan has a pretty low vaccination, has no mandatory vaccines. And on its recommended list is a lot less than in other countries. Japan has the highest life expectancy in the entire world, and it has the least vaccinated children of any developed country. Okay?
Surprise.
The U.S., in contrast, has the developed world's most aggressive vaccine schedule in number and timing, starting at pregnancy and at birth and in the first 2 years of life. Does this make U.S. children healthier? The clear answer is no. The U.S. has the very highest infant mortality rate of all industrialized countries, with more American children dying at birth and in their first year than any other comparable nation. And you're not allowed to talk about this?
Right.
You want to know why? Do we have a bad water or something else happening here? In 1994, Japan transitioned away.
I don't know why our lighting is so awful today, guys. I'm really sorry.
Japan transitioned away from mandated vaccination in public health centers to voluntary vaccination in doctors' offices, guided by the concept that it is better that vaccinations are performed by children's family doctors who are familiar with their health conditions. The country created 2 categories of non-compulsory vaccinations: routine vaccines that the government covers and strongly recommends but does not mandate, and additionary voluntary vaccines generally paid for out of pocket. Unlike in the U.S., Japan has no vaccine requirements for elementary and preschool kids. Whoa! There goes the light. Japan also banned the MMR vaccine in the same time frame due to thousands of serious injuries over a 4-year period. And they are one of the only countries to be honest about these injuries, okay? Because our country will not let you know what is happening, okay? Producing an injury rate of 1 in 900 children. That was over 2,000 times higher than the expected rate. It initially offered separate measles and rubella vaccines. Following its abandonment of the MMR vaccine, Japan now recommends a combined measles and rubella vaccine for routine use, but does not use the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccination. The mumps vaccine is in the voluntary, not recommended category. Japan has no vaccine mandates. Japan does not vaccinate newborns with the Hep B vaccine unless the mother is Hep B positive. Japan does not vaccinate pregnant mothers with tetanus, diphtheria, or pertussis, the Tdap vaccine. Japan does not give flu shots to pregnant mothers or to 6-month-old infants. Japan does not give the MMR vaccine, instead recommends the MR vaccine. Japan does not require the HPV vaccine. No other developed country administers as many vaccine doses in the first 2 years of life. Deaths per 1,000, okay? We are close to 6 deaths. 1 in 6 babies die within the first year. Automatic Hep B vaccine at birth. It looks like in Macau is yes, Hong Kong is yes, and Singapore is yes. However, they have a higher incidence of Hep B in their native populations.
Wow.
Okay? No for Belgium, Austria, Italy, Spain, France. They do not. Okay? Now, Hep B at birth if the mother is Hep B positive everywhere but Norway and Iceland. They do not do that. In contrast, the U.S. vaccine schedule prescribes routine vaccination during pregnancy, calls for the first Hep B vaccine dose within 24 hours of birth, even though 99.9% of pregnant women upon testing are Hep B negative. and follows up with 20 to 22 vaccine doses in the first year alone. No other developed country administers as many vaccine doses in the first 2 years of life. The Hep B vaccine injects a newborn with a 250 microgram load of aluminum, a neurotoxic and immune toxic adjuvant used to provoke an immune response. There are no studies to back up the safety of exposing infants to such high levels of injected metal. All right. In fact, the Food and Drug Administration's upper limit for aluminum in intravenous fluids for newborns is far lower than 5 micrograms per kilogram per day. And even at these levels, researchers have documented the potential for impaired neurological development. It may not be true autism that these children are experiencing. Impaired neurological development because of metal in their brain. It makes perfect sense. Your brain is designed to flow. The blood is designed to flow. And if you get a metal stuck in your brain, you might not develop correctly. And that's why a lot of these kids, Dr. Phil just had a mom on whose child would scream and he would hit her and they make her bleed so much so she tried to kill the child. But she was led to it because this child would hurt her other child, give her concussions and things like that. Now, what is going on? Something in that child's brain is in just massive amounts of pain. Mm-hmm. And they're not doing anything to help this poor woman and this child. And she probably needs to get $1 million lawsuit from some vaccine company.
No, because the vaccine companies don't pay out the lawsuit. Right. It's the American taxpayer. We need to make that clear. That is a fact.
Now get this. For an average newborn weighing 7.5 pounds, the Hep B vaccine has over 15 times more aluminum than the FDA's upper limit for IV solutions. Unlike Japan, the U.S. administers flu and Tdap vaccines to pregnant women during any trimester. The babies receive flu shots at 6 months of age, continuing every single year thereafter. Manufacturers have never tested the safety of flu shots administering during pregnancy. Japan initially recommended the HPV vaccine, but stopped doing so in 2013 after serious health problems prompted numerous lawsuits. I think that because that is a new vaccine, and it was to teenagers who could tell about what they're experiencing, right. And they had a voice to say, I was fine before and now I'm not okay. Yeah. Whereas children and babies they literally hush them up because they don't have a voice to speak.
Well, when you watch the movie Vaxxed, you will hear testimonial of stories of parents who took their child in and said, my child had this reaction, my child was this way before, my child was not this way, or after. And what these doctors will tell these parents was, you are wrong. Your child was already exhibiting this behavior. Your child already was going downhill. Your child was already disposed to this, and you're just making it up that it happened right after the vaccination.
Exactly. So here's the infant mortality rate on a pretty good graph. Japan has 2.1 for 1,000. Canada's the next one, and I'm guessing Canada has probably this closer to our vaccine schedule.
So when you're comparing this per 1,000 births, you need to understand this is not because we have more people. This is per 1,000 births, regardless of how many thousands of births that we have.
Right. If vaccines save lives, why are American children dying at a faster rate and dying younger compared to children in 19 other wealthy countries, translating to a 57% greater risk of death before reaching adulthood?
Why is this happening? It's happening because you're not allowed to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Among the 20 countries with the world's best infant mortality outcomes, only 3 countries, Hong Kong, Macau, Singapore, automatically administer the Hep B vaccine to all newborns. And they have higher rates of it. So I wanted to throw these things out. This was not to be some sort of tell-all on vaccinations. But the UK scraps pneumonia vaccines because they don't work. And that's another study out. Let's see.
The fact of the matter is that there have not been enough studies done to validate or to give cause to giving these, like you read, the flu shot to a pregnant mom or to an infant. The positives do not outweigh the negatives. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. It's just a really, really slippery slope.
And here's the thing. I am happy that I had the chicken pox as a kid. I realize that some people say, I've heard chicken pox could be deadly. I did not have the measles, but I did have the chicken pox. And I'm glad that I did, because there's a lifelong immunity that goes with that. And it also is very helpful for when you get older, with the advent of shingles. Shingles can be very deadly. And so what you're seeing, a lot of times chickenpox can shed to older adults, and it kind of keeps their immunity going. And you're seeing a higher rate of, because kids don't have this chickenpox.
Right.
They're not around older people. Then you're seeing a death rate of shingles rise. And so when you try to mess with the system now, listen, typhoid fever, not a fan. Let's have clean water. Scarlet fever, not a fan. Okay? Children have traditionally died. Smallpox, I'm not a fan. But we have to be able to say, you know what? Let's not give Hep B to a baby, because they're probably not going to be doing things that's going to transmit hepatitis B to them. I think I personally had a Hep B. You're supposed to have a double Hep, I don't know, in junior high, a vaccination for that. I had a conscious objection to the Hep B vaccination in junior high. And I'm glad that I did. I'm not a fan of, I think the only thing that scares me the most, really, is tetanus. But unfortunately...
That's, I think, a little bit of brainwashing, though, because when I was a kid, they talked about lockjaw so much, and you're terrified of getting lockjaw. Okay, I mean, seriously, but once I stepped on a nail, and I hadn't had a tetanus shot since I was young, and I called a nurse practitioner in panic, and I'm like, what do I do? And she's like, Michelle, tetanus is in the dirt. It's everywhere you go. You're probably going to be just fine.
Well, you needed to clean it out. So
just clean it out and wash it with water is what she said.
Yeah. So,
wash soap and water.
I've had a couple tetanus shots. I had one as an adult to play volleyball, but other than that, a lot of these things,
it boils down to choice, right?
Yeah.
Because this herd immunity thing is a joke for starters, but you have these women that tout. We started out our episode with Live Action, which is pro-life movement. Now, the pro-choice movement is anti the pro-life movement, but when it comes to vaccinations, they say you can have the choice to kill the baby within your womb, but you can't have the choice to not vaccinate your child, because that child might kill another child by being unvaccinated. Well, but what if that other child is vaccinated? And then the argument circles back to herd immunity. But seriously, it's insanity, this whole pro-choice thing.
And here you have over here,
They're not
follow
pro-choice.
me on Twitter, these doctors are saying, things like Jessica Biel is being criticized for lobbying against life-saving vaccine laws, not her beliefs. Like, what lives are going to be saved by there are a few people with medical exemptions in the state of California. These are not going to save lives. Okay. And it's just the way she's being ripped to shreds. I felt like it was important to,
and I think she kind of, in my opinion, did show that she buckled a little. I mean, that her Hollywood career is still really important to her. And even though she wants to protect her friends, it may not be exactly, she just kind of said, well, this is why, but I am very pro-vaccine.
And that's why here's the thing. That's why they want to shut down the internet, because they don't want you to think for yourself. They don't want you to read things. They don't want you to come to decisions on your own. They want you to listen to the government who once told you eggs are full of cholesterol, don't eat eggs.
Right.
Eat margarine instead of butter.
Oh, don't do that.
Then they came and said, they literally give you whiplash. I know for a fact that raw milk is safe. The CDC tells you it's not safe. And so, I'm going to listen to the government on what is safe for me and my family.
Right.
And the fact that YouTube and social media is now, just this year, particularly the past 2 years, censoring us talking about these things. Whereas in 2016, I remember my Facebook feed, Natural News came out with some of the craziest thing. Man lives to 200. I didn't care. I looked at the story and that's stupid, right? You have to be able to use critical thinking to make decisions on your own.
Right. And you have to be able legally to do that, or else we are no longer a free society. We are just mindless drones.
All right, guys. So we're going to sign off here.
We love you.
Like, comment, subscribe. If you haven't, make sure you are subscribed.
Yeah, go back and double check and make sure you're subscribed.
To Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks, go to our website, resistancechicks.com. Thanks to Jay. We have a website there. Ring the bell so you get notifications. They probably unring you. We do have a P.O. box if you want to make sure that your information and your comments get to us. Read your letters on air.
I think that's it. 107 Milford, Ohio, 45150. We will be live tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, roughly, as you all know.
It'll be me for the beginning.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be doing a pet visit, but I'll come in at some point. So I'm really excited about tomorrow's show. We've got a lot more to cover. We will talk about Iran. We will talk about the tariffs on Mexico. We'll talk about a lot of the different... Trump met with Poland, the Polish president, Duda, which was really great interview that I got to watch, a press conference. So we'll talk about a lot of different things
Sarah
tomorrow.
Sanders resigned today. We'll cover that tomorrow.
Why, though? She just got to meet the queen.
That's probably why she stayed around till that.
Unbelievable. All right, we're going to find... They ripped her to shreds, too. Maybe she got death threats. I mean, seriously.
She did. Yeah.
So we'll see you tomorrow night. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening and a wonderful Friday. And then we'll also see you on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our European and UK news that we do every Sunday. So
Boris made it to the first round with flying colors.
Oh, he's totally... listen, my feelings on Boris are probably 35-65. 35%, I'm like, okay, cool. 65%, I'm like, oh. But I'd rather him than other candidates. Right. So I have a pretty strong feeling that he will be the next prime minister. So it'll be very interesting because he's uncouth. And the things, I think he is very Trump-like in that sense. He just says what comes to mind. But at the same time, he's anyway, we'll talk about it on Sunday.
He's establishment too. All right.
He is. All right, you guys.
See you later.
Later.
Cold.